Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Finding Me on the ITV networks. Tariq Ramadan mentions that for many Muslims today there is a focus only on the letter of the law and not the principle or the spirit of the law. This understanding, of course, of the spirit and the essence is deeply entrenched in the works of great scholars such as Imam al-Ghazali and in the writings of Rumi. As Rumi has said, silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. And then, yesterday, he said, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. And that, of course, is what the essence and the spirit of Islam is. Today, I welcome with me a very special brother. Brother Aydin Inal, who is the director of the Turkish Harmony Institute in South Africa, which was originally established in 2006 as the Interfaith Foundation of South Africa in order to foster relations amongst different faith and cultural traditions to contribute to the well-being of humanity. So on that, I'd like to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome Brother Aydin.
Wa alaikum salam, thank you very much.
It's really wonderful to have you, and prior to us recording, of course, the discussion was excellent, and I wish we had more time to include all of that, but we'll try and get to as much of it as possible. However, my first question to you would be, you are a Turkish origin. The Turkish Harmony Institute is based on the Turkish principles, of course, from a particular understanding. So the question then is, why is there such a growing Turkish influence or dominance in South Africa?
I think instead of saying Turkish dominance, perhaps we should say Turkish involvement and Turkish presence might be a better word. Because we definitely, I am not in a position to speak on behalf of the entire community, but we definitely don't have an agenda of dominating the South African the environment or agenda. I think one of the reasons is that Turkey has been a very closed community for quite some time. And only in the last few decades, Turkish people have started opening up to the world. If you look at many countries, you won't see a lot of Turkish people traveling to or have settled in many different countries. Only in Germany, Australia, and a few countries you will see big Turkish communities. But apart from that, in countries like South Africa, the Turkish presence goes back only a few decades. You will only find very few individuals who have been here maybe 30, 40 years, but they're all first generation people. And one of the reasons, like I said, Turkish people have now been looking for opportunities, both in business, so we have a number of business people establishing in South Africa, and also I think in terms of some social movements which have been encouraging people to engage in charity work and the kind of work that will benefit the humanity, both Muslims and sometimes non-Muslims. And therefore, I think as an encouragement of those movements as well, we are seeing people leaving Turkey and relocating to many different parts of the world.
Yes, because I know that especially with the very, very many Sufi orders, or kind of a following of the Sufi ideology or understanding, they're making a very strong impact also in Western societies, and a lot of people said that it's amazing. We find the spirit of Islam through these teachings. Now, coming to the second thing, which is very important, and I think it's played a very big role, especially in the last 10 years or so, is the Turkish political model, which is emerging as an alternative for very many Arab countries also, now in trying to restructure themselves post the Arab Spring. But my question to you is, Turkey is also battling with its own identity still and establishing itself. How will Turkey combine state and religion to function effectively within its people's own Islamic identity?
I think for years, for decades, the problem in Turkey has been mostly between the people who position themselves in certain points of power in the state apparatus, and they've abused those for different agenda. And mostly it was an issue of power, holding on to power. and they've abused that to tell people that we need to be in power so that you can maintain your lifestyle, and that would mostly be the Western type of lifestyle. And one of the things that they've done, unfortunately, which was very damaging, is that they've portrayed Muslims and practicing Muslims as a great threat to the lifestyles of people who are not willing to practice religion. They may claim they're Muslims, but they don't want to practice, and they want to live.
Islam is an inconvenience for them.
True, Islam. They showed Islam as inconvenience. It was almost like if there were Muslims involved in the socio-economic life, their lifestyle would be threatened, and that has been the one of the main sort of underlying reasons why we had tensions between, apparent tensions between state and the people, especially the people who are practicing Muslims. And I think the Turkey doesn't need to try very hard to achieve that consolidation,
the balance,
because of the balance.
Yeah.
I mean, a practicing Muslim is not a threat to anyone.
Yes, of course.
And they can serve in any sphere of the government or the state apparatus, and they can be just, they can do their job, and they can allow others to be what they wish to be.
Yes.
And I think it is something that is already being practiced at the public level. I mean, you already at the public level, people who are drinking and who are practicing Islam, they've been living side by sides. Sometimes there are, I think, there are artificial sort of conflicts, apparent conflicts, especially during Ramadan, for example. Every year, the Turkish media has the habit of finding some non-fasting person who got beaten up by those who fasted, but then we found out that it was actually a totally different fight.
Okay.
So I don't think Turkey has to try very hard. It's just that if we just normalize and stop fearing the other,
yes,
I think it's going to work.
And not only that, I think it's important for people to start learning what Islam actually is,
Absolutely.
rather than what they're being told Islam is.
And I think one thing is that, yes, in Turkey, on paper, 99% are Muslim. But the way they understand Islam can vary quite a bit. I mean, some people might feel Islam as a threat to the entire human value, and some people see Islam as the solution to the entire problems. And there has been almost no communication between the two. And I think one of the ways forward is to bridge that gap and get people together so that they can see that actually people who are practicing Islam and also people who choose to live a very secular life, they actually want the same things from life, basically. And they all want to be comfortable, they all want to be safe, they all want to be happy. And that's it, basically. When they see that...
Yes. And sorry, after that, I think practicing religion is then your choice, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but in terms of values, everybody wants the same
Absolutely.
value. It's just how you then enforce the more intrinsic parts which come through religion.
Absolutely.
Okay, so very quickly, before we go to our break, if you can just tell me that, I want to ask you this question. You engage much in interfaith actions, and as part of your philosophy, your organization states that dialogue is about coming together. You look at social cohesion, because you say social cohesion is threatened by 4 major causes: ignorance, poverty, disunity, and disinformation. So based on this quickly, what is interfaith dialogue and why is it necessary?
I think one of the unfortunate things is the word interfaith has been used to mean many different things. And for some, interfaith dialogue was about proselytizing, and there has been some efforts of using interfaith for that purpose. And I think there are also efforts of uniting all the religions and coming up with a new religion in the name of interfaith. And also some people felt that they had maybe very different and marginal views on Islam or religion or on many issues, and they felt interfaith was a good platform for them to express themselves, because that's the only platform they get accepted. But apart from all those, I think what we mean by that, I mean, we can call it something else. We can call it interfaith collaboration, interfaith cooperation. The idea is that we live in a world which is becoming smaller and smaller. We're in contact with all kinds of people. Our neighbors are from all kinds of backgrounds. and in South Africa we are a few percent only as Muslims.
Yes.
So in essence, we cannot run away from interacting with the other people. And if you look at the global scale, I mean, there are more than 1 billion Muslims, and maybe more than that, more Christians, which are more than that, and many other religions, which are very significant numbers. So the
Dynamic,
this dynamic, and also our solution for a peaceful future, have to come through some kind of dialogue between all these people.
So that we can understand each other.
And we can understand each other. And then also, by understanding each other, we see the humanity in one another. We see that... Yeah.
Sorry, I have to stop you there because we're going to go to the break. When we come back, we'll pick up on that concept of understanding the humanity in each other, which I think is intrinsic to the understanding of Islam as well. So after the break, we'll see you then. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, and welcome to the second segment of Finding Me with Brother Aydin from the Turkish Harmony Institute. Before we went into the break, we were speaking about the concept of interfaith and interfaith dialogue and the importance of it in establishing each other's humanity. And I would like to carry this further with Brother Aydin. Sorry, but before I go there, I just want to quote another lovely thing by Rumi when he said, "I go into the Muslim mosque and the Jewish synagogue and the Christian church and I see one altar." In other words, the ability to recognize in each other something similar. And I think that's what you're trying to aim at, isn't it?
Well, yeah, well, as we were saying, it's important to discover the humanity in each other. And also it's important to discover the fact that all these religions, all these faiths, they are trying to achieve one thing, and it is for a peaceful existence or coexistence for all the people. All the conflicts, I know when we have this kind of discussion with most people, the most basic and the first criticism we get, but the religions are the reasons for
the wars.
for all the wars and conflicts.
Yes.
And I think this is a very simplistic and uneducated view. I wouldn't want to offend anyone, but because this is like not knowing the essence of each faith. In today's world, in all religious structures, including mosques, churches, synagogues, etc., there are politics.
Yes.
And governments are by nature political. And therefore, when we say a conflict which exists in any part of the world, it's a religious conflict, we are basically saying that the religion is being represented by those political entities, which is not. And the faiths need to be seen as faiths. Because they are not any political system. Islam is not
the religion separate from the political system.
And Islam is not a political ideology.
Yes.
And all faiths have got many principles which inform how you behave in political life, in social, economic life, but they are not necessarily a political ideology.
Yes.
So it's important to understand that. And also, one thing maybe about interfaith dialogue, again, it's not about justifying either your presumptions or justifying the actions of the other. For example, just to give an example.
Yeah, sorry, before you give me the example, would it then be true, because in the madrasa I attended, any interfaith discussion was considered as being traitorous to Islam. And then it was like, how do you then reconcile giving attention to, do you have a right to sit and discuss somebody else's faith and allow them to tell you and influence you? Those are the questions that came about. So is this what you're saying? Like, if you look at it in the dialogue between the different faiths?
I think as comfortable Muslim, as a comfortable Jewish or Christian, I wouldn't be worried about talking with someone else and that person telling me about his or her faith. Yes. Because I know my faith and I'm comfortable with that, and I would like to understand more about the other faith. For the reason that firstly, that person is a human being and he believes in certain things, and I would like to understand certain things. But when we engage in interfaith dialogue, we shouldn't confuse that with debate. Okay. And unfortunately, sometimes I came across this, that people engage in activities which they called interfaith dialogue, but they were actually debates. For example, at one occasion, somebody said they are involved in interfaith dialogue, and I asked them, like, what do you discuss? They said, is Jesus a prophet or is he son of God?
Yes.
This is a futile discussion. This is not going to achieve anything. But our aim in interfaith work should be to come up with a peaceful society where I can be myself and they can be themselves, and we protect each other's rights, and that's important. Because if we all want to stand alone and protect our rights, it's not going to work, because we see everyone else as a threat to our identity.
And we will become vulnerable then.
Absolutely,
You
because you're making yourself very lonely.
That's true. Now, Fethullah Gulen is well known in Western societies, but many South African Muslims are oblivious of his teachings. And of course, the Institute, Turkish Harmony, follows very many of his teachings. And Dr. Chetan, who defines the Gulen movement from a sociological perspective, states that the movement has, for the past 2 or 3 generations, grasped the depth of Islam without borders. And for me, that's a fascinating concept. So it says that he has put these principles into practice, bringing in the powers of trust, compassion, sense of belonging, and interfaith dialogue. And I think that's really missing amongst the essence of Muslims today, where we're only focused on, how long is your trouser, do you wear a black abaya, do you read the 4 like this, do you place your hands like that, and we've missed all of this compassion, this trust, this ability to interact. So what defines Gulen as an individual, and then of course its impact on the movement's impact on you as an individual, and then on the greater society?
I think it would be important to have a look at Gulen, his early life, where he was born, where he was raised. Gulen was born in eastern Turkey, which is very conservative, and many people practice Islam in the region. And he was born into a very pious family. And as he says, his first teacher of Quran was his mother. And one of the reasons was because it was banned to teach Quran at the time, and that was he was taught secretively by his mother. But so he was born into this kind of an environment, and also most of the education happened through traditional madrasa system. And he attended those madrasas. He only had about 3 years of formal schooling, and then he attended these traditional madrasas until about 16, 17 years old. And then he started giving talks at mosques in the region. And then after a while, he applied to the state's religious affairs department. He was appointed as a preacher, if you want to call it, to a western part of Turkey. Now, the significance there, where he worked, the city called Edirne. It's on the European part of Turkey. And there, the people are very secular, and practicing of Islam is almost non-existent, very limited. So he had to deal with this contrast, because he comes from a very conservative background, and now he's in this environment. And then I think that helped him to come up with a new way of thinking in terms of how he approaches to the new reality of Turkey. Because if he had to behave as he would in his hometown, he would always be excluded from the whole social system, because he was not educated in the normal schooling system, and etc. And during his madrasa education in the eastern Turkey, he got educated by very strong Sufi sort of personalities, and therefore Sufism has impacted to a great deal on him. So we can't really describe him as a Sufi in the traditional sense. So he doesn't belong to any tariqah, for example, because traditionally, if you say you're Sufi or you follow a certain tariqah, you would have a sheikh who would guide you through your journey, etc. He didn't have that, because one of the reasons that he believed in coming, because the realities of Turkey at the time needed something else. With the normal traditional tariqah system, you could focus on your spirituality, on your upliftment, etc. But there was a huge society which was losing all its values, and it was disintegrating. So something had to be done about it.
And you needed somebody to address that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to go to the break. When we come back, we'll take up on this particular issue. And I would like to incorporate then an understanding of the role of women in the movement and their status in the movement. So we'll see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the final segment. With me again is Brother Aydin from the Turkish Harmony Institute, and we're speaking about the various impacts that Fethullah Gulen has had on the Turkish society, and then of course in the greater society out of Turkey. So if I may, Brother Aydin, if you can quickly sum up then for us of what exactly has Fethullah Gulen achieved in terms of the way he has taught, and what is the role of women within this understanding?
I think one thing that Fethullah Gulen has achieved is that he managed to live a life which would set an example to many people. For example, he doesn't own anything and he doesn't claim any position. Therefore, I think that has impacted on many people to see the sincerity, and that's why people took up on his suggestions to engage in activities, organizations, etc. And in terms of the issue of women, Gulen says in certain parts, as long as in institutions, because when you talk about Gulen movement, you talk about different organizations. It's either a school or an institute or a media organization, etc. I mean, as long as the basic principles of Islam are not violated in terms of man and woman relations, he says, I mean, he doesn't stipulate any percentage or any kind of numbers in terms of women involvement. In fact, he encourages. And I will maybe mention one significant example. A few years ago, he made a statement. He said, for example, if a man is beating his wife unfairly, it would be okay for the woman to go and learn self-defense and apply that at home, because she's being disadvantaged. She's being disadvantaged in the whole thing. So that's basically his position on the issue of women. I don't think...
Okay, so basically women have an equal status, is that what you're saying? Exactly how Islam has afforded them. So he would not deny women the right to be educated, to go out into the workplace, to express themselves, to be artistic, to be creative, and to contribute to society as well.
Absolutely.
That would be acknowledged.
Absolutely. And there are, in fact, institutions which are aimed at girls studying, etc. And in fact, at the early times, he got criticized, or the movement got criticized for establishing schools for girls, etc. But then I think people do understand the whole concept and the reason, and because the whole mentality towards investing in women. Because he speaks at different locations. He places great importance on family, for example, and mostly when he speaks about family, how the man should actually treat the family and the wife, and it's important in terms of importance of family, in terms of importance of women, both within family and within the social fabric, because there is a lot that the woman can actually contribute to the social.
Yeah, so he's basically addressing the justice within and outside of the family as well, and how women should be, how men should relate to women. I think so. So based on this understanding, we know that there's a common bond in your institution that is trying to create the idea that we need to move away from this focus of stereotyping each other, stereotyping other religions. But then, of course, the irony is that inside of Turkey there is this problem where we have what we call the second-class citizen, and that is the Kurds. And the Kurds, of course, as everybody knows, they're Sunni Muslims. So if you're trying to reconcile the spiritual action, bonding between other faiths, what is then the issue inside of Turkey where people of the same faith cannot live together?
I think the Kurdish issue is something that people have discussed for long hours and wrote many books on that, and it really requires a whole discussion on itself. But the main, I think I should say a few important things. One is that the main problem in Turkey is not the Kurdish problem, it's or Kurdish issue. When we bring it down to Kurdish issue, it's oversimplifying of the Turkey's problems, because Turkey has a freedom problem, which affected many people. The reason why the Kurdish issue and aspect is more visible is because the Kurdish population is really great in Turkey. And the Turkish Republic since 1920s have ignored investing in the region, and therefore there was not enough education in the region. People were not educated. They were left into the traditional local structures. And most times, because also you wiped out the traditional Islamic teachings and also traditional systems which actually kept tabs on the leaders so that they would remain on the right track. So when you remove that and you don't provide the normal education as well, then that whole system got contaminated.
Yeah, so you're disempowering the people, actually.
Exactly. Yeah. And in terms of, for example, women in the rural areas, mostly in the eastern part of Turkey, and in the western part of Turkey as well, in the rural areas, they got treated badly, not because the perpetrators are strong Muslims, because they're ignorant.
Okay.
That's basically the basic reason. And coming back to the Kurdish issue, at the public level, there isn't really that second-class treatment.
Okay.
I think there are certain vested interest groups in the state apparatus. They enforce that kind of treatment onto the Kurdish population, unfortunately. And it is a grave mistake, and something has to be done about it very urgently. But then, like I said, the public level, I've got friends here in Johannesburg who are intermarried. The husband is Turkish, wife is Kurdish, or the other way around. So intermarriage is a common practice, and there has been many interaction between the people of the two backgrounds, let's say. Yes, there has been some stereotyping which was imposed on the people's minds, but I think it's not very difficult to get rid of them, because especially with the Fethullah Gülen and all his followers in Turkey, he encouraged many of them. For example, during the time of Qurbani, he said, don't do Qurbani at your own home in the West, and go to the East and do your Qurbani there, so that you build bridges, you build friendship there.
And so that's okay. So that is now the spiritual reconciliation. Do you think there will be a political reconciliation on the Turkish or the Kurdish problem?
Well, I hope there is a solution very soon, because it's quite important that they are the people of the same country, same background. They've been together for centuries, and there's no reason for them to be fighting. In terms of political will, I'm not sure. That I think the political scientists have to look at that. But we just can pray that
maybe if the people reconcile their hearts, then the solution will come.
I think that's the most important part of it.
Okay, can you quickly share with us, as a parting thought, something on the essence of Sufism and the essence of your institute, based on the teachings of Fethullah Gülen?
I think Sufism is the essence of Islam in one sense, and also in terms of and the whole purpose of Islam is about the personal upliftment, spiritual upliftment, and the Sufism is a way of doing that which came about only after Prophet ﷺ, and it is one of the ways which empowers people towards achieving your human quality, or achieving being a potential, being a true Muslim. And I think, and it has been practiced for many years, and Fethullah Gülen places great importance on the spirituality and Sufism in the sense that personal practice, not in the sense that traditionally following Sheikh, etc. But I think, Sufism is a great tool which can be used to reconcile people of different backgrounds and different ideologies.
I'm thinking that ultimately then it all comes back to exactly what you're trying to preach. It's the empathy. Let's dialogue and learn from each other and share each other's viewpoint. Even
Absolutely.
let's agree to disagree, even if
Absolutely.
that is the case.
Absolutely.
So Jazakallah khair, thank you very much for being here with us. And I'd like to leave you again with the beautiful words of Rumi, where he said, if you are irritated by every rub, how will your mirror be polished? And then he said, raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder. So with that, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for being with us and finding me.